Oh, for the first time ever in the history of this show, and this is going to piss my guest off so much, I have a playoff victory to boast and gloat about for the first time since doing this show. Believe it or not, we've been on for 6 years, and I know I've had success, but I've never gotten to relish in playoff victory. I know it's something that you haven't experienced in a very long time, but I had to get it off my chest with BigRat 310. And before I get into anything else, I want to ask you straight up, what was your just the last week of the McDaniel saga? Like, did you think it was happening, or did the firing catch you off guard? I'll be honest with you, Danny's the one who broke the news to me.
So, firstly, I'm happy that your long national nightmare is finally over. Good Lord, 6 years. And you say it's been a long time since I've experienced it. No, let me correct you. I have never experienced it. I've said this on this show many times. Not only did I start watching the Dolphins like right when Dan Marino retired, but it wasn't even the first year after he retired. It was 2 years later. So I missed the playoff win from the 2000 season. That was done.
Okay.
That was done while, as us Dolphin fans like to remind everybody, it wasn't just the 2000 season. It was done. You know how there's a gap between the presidential election and inauguration day before like the new president officially takes office. So Bill Clinton hadn't been sworn in yet because the playoff game was before January 20th, 2001. So it's the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since the Clinton administration. Like that's the unfortunate reality of it. So no, I've never experienced it. My first ever Dolphins playoff game was a blowout loss to the Ravens. That was my memory of Dolphins playoffs. So, and there was two. There was one in 2001 or 2002, and there was another one in like 2008 when they won the division, the Wildcat year. So, yeah, 2 times that's happened, going to the playoffs and just getting smacked by the Ravens. So,
and I know all about that when I say the national nightmare, quote unquote. But like, it's just for me because like it's so weird the timeline of when I started doing the show to them getting it was just kind of like that weird like post Brady saga. Like I literally my first episode was recorded right before that Titans game, and then just really experiencing the lean years of the show while getting to expose myself. See my people seeing me on the internet. It's just like it's one of those things where it's just like and I say it, just appreciate a good thing while you have it. But just
you're like
original point.
Like the new age, like I get it, like the new age New England content creators, like post Super Bowl 53. You guys are in a unique space.
I don't think the term content creator didn't even come out probably until after Super Bowl 53 anyway. So
that's fair. That was not a retro concept. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And hey, like you at least made the playoffs during those down periods. Danny's team hasn't made the playoffs in 15 years. Like it could even be worse.
Yes. So 2 things. One, he's the one who broke the McDaniel news to me. The other way I found out was one of my favorite Twitter accounts is Simpsons NFL. And I know you're a big Simpsons fan, when they basically take Simpsons clips and relate it to the NFL. Yep. And they did the one with Bart, with Krusty killing him when he faked his death on the airplane, where it's like, I think everything's going to be all, and then the plane just crashes, and it was like McDaniel after thinking he survives Black Monday.
Yeah.
And the way I look at the firing was simply, I know they like to say Stephen Ross met with them and there was a change of opinion. I still think if that happened, it would have come down the pipeline probably later in the day, Monday or Tuesday. But Thursday, after the whole interviewing of potential candidates, I think it was at the point where Stephen was like, hey, I got to make a change.
Yeah, I can give more color on that. So I was not surprised. I was pretty adamant in my friend group that if we did not have a winning record, I thought he was gone. Now, there was a very unique circumstance when he did the whole Quinn Ewers thing, where maybe if you go 8-9 and you beat the Patriots in New England with Quinn Ewers, maybe that's the only way the losing season can save you, because of the unique way of like having a 7th-string rookie like beat the number 2 seed in the AFC on the road. Like maybe theoretically, but I mean, I went into that game thinking we were going to get smacked. It was actually my most profitable sports betting day ever, because I bet Patriots -13, -12, -17, and then the Dolphins like tied the game, or it was like 14-10 at some point, and the live spread dropped to like 9, 7, 8. I hit all 3 of those numbers as well. I made like $1,000, like just betting on the Patriots to blow out the Dolphins. It was awesome. Like it was, I went on a trip to when I went to the Fiesta Bowl to watch the Hurricanes play the semifinal. We'll get there. Me, me sports betting that day paid for a lot of the trip. It was awesome. It was such a great moment in my life. And so, yeah, because 2018 was very similar. 2018, Adam Gase had clinched a losing season when they lost to the Vikings. And they lost a home game to the Jaguars, which was a shock at the time. The Dolphins were actually favored going into that game because this was like when Blake Bortles got benched for, I think, Cody Kessler, and then Blake Bortles came back into the game midway through.
Year after they made the AFC Championship game, it's New England.
Year
started 2-0. They started 2-0, but then they got really stinky towards the end.
Yes, and they beat the Dolphins in Miami. And then the last game of the season, we went at Buffalo, already eliminated from the playoffs. And like everyone knew, like, oh, this team's not going to show up. Like, it's going to be cold. They're going to quit. Like, they're going to get slaughtered. And they got slaughtered, and Gase got fired. This was very similar. I just was certain in this situation against the New England team playing for something. To no one who watched that game, the opening drive is 3 straight New England runs for a 75-yard touchdown drive. Like, Ramondre busts out like a 50-yard run on like the second play from scrimmage. They were like, the Dolphins were like screaming to you, like, we are not showing up. And once Quinn threw the pick in the end zone, everyone just kind of gave up and they lost 38-10. So I thought the whole time he was getting fired. I thought McDaniel's agent, Richard Flowers, he is one of the most powerful coaching agents in the NFL. And all those Shanahan tree guys, they have all these NFL Network insiders in their pocket, like Ian Rappaport. Yeah, Pete Traeger, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, all those guys are in their pocket. And it was very interesting. Adam Schefter, who has more ties to ownership, went on the McAfee show, and he said, no decision has been made yet. And all the other NFL Network guys were saying, no, McDaniel's coming back. It looks like McDaniel's coming back. It seems like McDaniel's coming back. And it just never made sense because the Dolphins are going to rebuild next year, most likely. And if they go in a rebuilding year with like a rookie quarterback and they go like 5-12, then what are you going to do next year? Are you just going to fire McDaniel after next year? It's like, why are we wasting time? You're already bringing in a new GM. You might as well let the new GM just get his own guy. Bringing McDaniel back for another season was just going to be a waste of everybody's time. Much like after 2018, they fired Adam Gase. And one of the reasons they fired him, Stephen Ross even admitted, we're going to be rebuilding in 2019, the tank for 2 a year. They never say it out loud, but that's what they were doing. We're going to be rebuilding in 2019. Adam Gase is probably going to have another losing record, and then I'm probably just going to fire him after 2019. And that, to me, I'm not saying it'll get as bad as 2019 next year for the Dolphins. Depends on who they hire, depends on who the quarterback is. But
absolutely.
Yeah, but it just didn't make any sense to bring McDaniels back with Quinn Ewers with this team, go like 6-11, and then we just fire McDaniels anyways next year. So I the whole time never bought that he was safe. Never bought the Richmond Flowers string pulling of the NFL media. And when Adam Schefter went on the McAfee show and said no decision has been made yet, and everyone's making a big deal about how McDaniel had a press conference that Monday. He did. That was scheduled before the Patriots game. Local Dolphins. Yeah, they have no general manager. So like,
sorry to cut you off. I have another great example.
Sure.
Last year, Chicago in Detroit, they pissed down their leg on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah. Matt Eberflus does a press conference that Friday. He's fired 2 hours later.
Correct. It happens all the time. And especially like in the Dolphins situation where you have no general manager. If you don't have a general manager, who's giving the Monday presser? Like there's no one to speak if it's not McDaniel. And the presser was scheduled before the game was even played. So if you're putting a lot of stock in the last game, the presser scheduled before the game. So the outcome of the game has no influence on the presser occurring or not occurring. And
all teams do that on Monday regardless.
Correct. And he even said, like, everyone was so fixated with how confident he sounded, how his plan of having Quinn be the quarterback next year and all his tweaks to the roster. No one listened to the fact that he said in that presser, I have a meeting with Steve Ross later this week on Thursday. And then sure as shit, he got fired on Thursday. Like, I don't know why that nugget, like, slipped out of everyone's mind. I felt like I was going crazy. Like, I have family members texting me like, oh, how do you think McDaniel's safe? Do you think McDaniel's safe? I was like, no, I think he's going to get fired. And the fact that his meeting with Stephen Ross hadn't even happened yet was even more evidence that he was about to get fired. And yes, there is, to what you said before I started this long, unnecessary 10-minute rant, there was some wording in some of the Dolphins insider community that, yes, in the GM interviews, there were people that were saying, yeah, I kind of want to bring in my own guy. And sure as shit, John Eric Sullivan, who's been in Green Bay for 20 years, and yes, he knows LaFleur. And because he knows LaFleur, he has some connections to Shanahan, but he never worked in a front office with the Shanahan tree. Like, he's a Packers guy through and through, has been for 20 years. And yes, there is rumblings that he was like, why am I going to work with someone else's head coach? Like, I'd rather just bring in my own guy. And yeah, I think they did the right thing. I think I like McDaniel a lot personally. I've talked about it a lot on the show. Like, I'm rooting for him. I really do want him to improve. I really do want him to succeed. I like the guy. Like, you're going to see a lot of people, whoever hires him, you're going to see a ton of those people's fan bases on Twitter posting clips from the Hard Knock season in 2023, showing how funny he is, how quirky he is, how affable he is. I don't disagree with any of those things, but he was not ready to be a head coach. And to be a head coach, we talk about it all the time on this show, being a good schemer is not the only part of the job. There's multiple parts of the job. You got to command a room. You got to know how to discipline people. You got to make sure that everyone is detail oriented on game days. Like when Zach Sealer hits the punter on a 4th down against the Bills, week 3, Thursday Night Football. Our season's already on the line because we start the year 0-2 after you guys beat us in Miami. Yep. Thursday Night Football, it's a tie game. We're about to get the ball back. It's 4th and 2, and Zach Sealer roughs the punter. Automatic first down for the Bills. They score a touchdown, and the Dolphins lose by 10. It's like stuff like that. Whenever that happens to other teams with coaches we don't like, we say this team's not on top of the details. This team is undisciplined. And Zach Sealer's not an offensive player, but it is still Mike McDaniel's job to make sure shit like that doesn't happen in his football games. Absolutely. And stuff like that was happening all the time. Like he's just not organized. And maybe he will be better organized in a future head coaching job. Maybe once he learns how to delegate to other people. But he was not organized. And the Dolphins led the league in false start penalties one year. They constantly burned the play clock before every single snap. It cost them a playoff game in Buffalo 3 years ago. Like they were just never on top of the details. They were never organized. Everything was always chaotic and frenetic constantly. And that falls on the head coach, in my opinion. So my hope for him is I want him to be an OC somewhere outside of the Shanahan tree. I want him to be an OC like in Tampa, like under Todd Bowles. Learn from a completely different head coach, a completely different philosophy, and then maybe you pick up some things so that you can be a good head coach the following year. I think if he takes a head coach job right now, I think it would be a mistake. I think it would be just like when Gase went to the Jets. It would be a mistake. He needs time off.
Because also they always say the same thing with the NFL, where getting a second opportunity is very lucky, but a lot of coaches know if you get a second opportunity, if you mess it up, chances are that third opportunity is not going to be there waiting for you.
Gase doesn't.
Rare occasions.
Yeah, maybe Gase just doesn't care. Maybe Gase is just happy to count his money. But Gase is never called for anything. Like the dude's just not working. Hasn't for 6 years. This guy was a Super Bowl offensive coordinator for the most prolific offense in NFL history, and he can't get a job. And I don't care that he had Peyton Manning. Josh McDaniels still gets jobs, and Josh McDaniels is showing this year that he actually is very valuable, separate from Tom Brady. And Gase can't even get a phone call.
And now for that, it might not even be Josh McDaniels getting jobs. It might be Thomas Brown or a step below him, who interned with Chicago last year. Pivoting out, obviously, I want to take the Dolphins off the board and the Giants, just because obviously it's not official. I did have a certain Giants fan, Jared, slide in my DM saying, "Can I come on and brag about Harbaugh?" Which I will say this: I've seen some people say, this is like the Vrabel to the Patriots hire. I'm here to say it has the potential to be. I just think they need to clean up. They need to clean up the roster, and plus, too, the conference and the division you play in, it's a lot harder to do that. But I think that the pieces are there for the Giants, where they and I respect the Giants for wanting to do this win now mentality, not go out, get that next hot young head coach, and just be like, hey, we want the 63-year-old who knows what the fuck he's doing. We want the guy who knows what he's doing. So I give the Giants a lot of props for that. My only thing is just, I'm not sure about them next year all the way, because I don't know if you saw this, but apparently Malik Neighbors is still on. He was still walking with a cane, and apparently they're kind of saying that he might already start next year on PUP. We don't know how the full extent of it is. So I really do think if you're Joe Schoen, you have to knock free agency out of the park, and you have to have a really good draft, not just beyond hey, taking your guy on day one. You got to find dogs day 2 and day 3 who can come in and contribute right away. That's something that New England's done this year that not a lot of people are talking about, like the Travion Hendersons, the Kyle Williams, Jared Wilsons. Your guy, Andy Borregales, same thing. You need to get those guys in the draft if you're the Giants at the positions that you need in order to succeed, in order to challenge Philly for the division potentially, compete with Dallas. And we also can't rule out the whole thing about Washington, that there's going to be a lot of pressure in there to win next year. So
when you as a head coach have to get rid of your offensive and defensive coordinator, that usually means you're next. It sounds harsh. They were just in the NFC title game, but usually teams who fire a head coach who fires both coordinators, the head coach is usually fired the next year. Now I'm
rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, basically. And there's a lot of pros, obviously. Like Harbaugh is an adult in the room, stability, can discipline these guys, can lead a winning culture, all those things. Everyone,
First good
all
coach
those
since
things.
probably Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, and that pro case is hard to ignore. I can guarantee you, like every like betting show, NFL betting analyst in the summer when they do like their division previews, I kind of think Giants to win the NFC East is like good long shot play. Like it's going to be a very, very, very popular sentiment because it's going to be the second year of Jackson Dart. You get another year with Abdul Carter, another year with Malik Neighbors. You get whoever they draft this year as well on top of everything. That's going to add to the hype as well. Like, and you got Cam Scatabo coming back. That's going to be a very, very, very just like popular, catchy opinion. There's that stat that there's a team that goes from worst to first in the division every single year, as you guys just did this year. People will.
I have a really good example for next year.
Oh, the Saints?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that one too. And so I do, yeah, like everyone's going to be high on the Giants. I will say as a concern, and again, I wanted Harbaugh for my team, so I'm not going to be hypocritical and like ignore it and like then like not apply this to other teams as well. So like, yes, ultimately it's a good hire. Ultimately you root for the culture building thing. Yeah. Is there something as a con? Is there something to the risk that maybe his disciplinarian style? I was listening to James Palmer.
Where you play. It's because you're in New York and everything you do is under the microscope.
You're under the microscope.
Giants.
Yeah, and James Palmer went like James Palmer on the Heed the Call show today. And he's, even though he doesn't work for NFL Network anymore, he still works for The Athletic. He's still plugged into all these coaching vacancies. And they said that the reason he lost the locker room in Baltimore is that there's some modern day players that quote unquote don't mesh with his style of coaching, that he's so hard on guys that some guys don't respond to it very well. And maybe what would have worked 10 years ago doesn't work now. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't go as well in New York, especially with the scrutiny, the microscope, all that stuff. So that's the con. But obviously, you take the chance. I mean, there's risks with any head coaching hires. I think Greg Allman from Tampa Bay, he posted a stat that in 2022, there were 10 head coach openings. 8 of the 10 guys that got hired got fired. Only 2 of them are still around. One of them is Todd Bowles, who inherited the job from Bruce Arians and might get fired next year. And the other one is Kevin O'Connell. That's like the success. But the other guys like Mike McDaniel, Josh McDaniels, Nate Hackett was in that group. Lovie Smith was in that group, like a bunch of just like guys who just got canned. Matt Eberflus in that group, canned. So, yeah, there's risks in any head coaching hire. Just because I'm mentioning a risk for John Harbaugh doesn't mean this wasn't obviously the slam dunk right thing to do.
Do you know, by the way, who the longest tenure head coach is now that Mike Tomlin's no longer coach of the Steelers?
Andy Reid.
Do you know that there's a 3-way tie for second?
Yep, McVay, Shanahan, and McDermott. Yep.
Yes, and then after that, I believe it's Sirianni and Dan Campbell. Although there is also, it was, I think there's someone else in there that was 19 or 20.
19's LaFleur. LaFleur's 19.
It's LaFleur and then Campbell and Sirianni.
The fact that like 4th place on the list is from 2021 is crazy. That wasn't that long ago.
Like, really said in like the NBA and stuff.
Yeah, like Eric Spoelstra is now he's the longest tenured coach across the big 4 sports.
Yeah, but no. But yeah, no, like with the Giants, like and also too, I like the fact that they do it knowing, hey, he's not going to be here for like 10, 15 years. It's just, hey, we want to build a relevant program for the next 5 years because, and I still say this, I know I like the dog of the Giants. I also have obvious reason to hate them. But I know that there are certain teams in this league that the league wants to see do good because they know it brings eyeballs. Chicago's a perfect example right now. The Giants are another one. Pittsburgh, Dallas. There's these marquee franchises that when the league's doing, when the league knows, I'm not saying that they pick favorites, but they know, hey, if the New York Giants are a relevant, good, not poverty dog shit franchise, it boosts our ratings. We can put them in prime time more. Like, I wouldn't be shocked next year to see the Giants, maybe not deserve it, but get that, like, a little bit of a primetime bump earlier in the year because people are thinking, hey, there's something to be had here potentially with the Giants. Like, I believe they play the NFC South next year. So if like they go to Jacksonville, that could easily be like a Monday night football game. Them and Dallas will probably be Sunday night football. I'd almost guarantee money on that, or if not, Thanksgiving. But that's the other point I want to make with the Giants as well.
Yeah, they get a lot of primetime games generally. So especially with the Harbaugh hire. Yeah. They, if they play the Chargers next year, I don't think they do because they played the Chargers this year. But whenever they play the Chargers, they're obviously going to throw that on Sunday or Monday night football, like stuff like that.
Even too, like when he goes, I don't know if they would play the Ravens this year, but that's another one too.
Yeah.
Let me try to find this. 2026 New York Giants.
Yeah, because we know the list. We just don't know the order of the schedule right now,
which doesn't come out for a few more months.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, by the way, without picking obviously Miami or New York, because I want to get my answers first. Which head coaching job do you think has the most potential, or you think you would give like a 9 or a 10 out of 10? And which one are you just like, it's a really tough situation to walk into? Because my best situation, honestly, I think I have to go with Tennessee, just because I think there's such a low risk, high reward there. I don't know if he is the guy yet, but you've seen the flashes with Cam where it's kind of like, if we can nail the hire, build the right pieces around him, there's a lot of potential there. It kind of reminds me of like, Dave Canales walking into Carolina 2 years ago where, hey, he can come in next year, doesn't exactly have to go to plan. We don't have to come out here and win the division, win 14 games. We just want to see our quarterback continue to progress, kind of like what we saw with Bryce in Carolina. The other one, honestly, that the more I think about it, I don't know if I would want. I thought about it, and I honestly think Arizona is a very quietly dysfunctional franchise more than people want to lean on. Just the Kyler situation, Michael Bidwell, I don't think it's talked enough about. Like, just some of the bad decisions have been made. Plus, two, you have an all-pro tight end. You have a wide receiver who's supposed to be this amazing player who's being misused horribly. And look, the last two head coaching hires you didn't nail. Cliff Kingsbury, one flamed out. You had one good year, and then Jonathan Gannon. It was three really bad years. So I just think Arizona. I just don't think it's that. I was going to say Atlanta, but Atlanta is basically, hey, you have to think long term with Atlanta and not short term. So that's why I'm saying Tennessee for my most favorable one and Arizona for the least favorable.
Yeah, I like Arizona as a pick because there's some grumblings that Michael Bidwell doesn't do a good job as an owner, and he's very cheap on coaches apparently too. So
I would say a lot of local talk with him apparently about catering more to wealthy fans and trying to sell the club seats and the suites than like the actual fan experience in the stadium for like the average working class fan.
And it's a shame because that stadium's beautiful. I was just there for the Fiesta Bowl. That stadium's gorgeous, like really, really, really gorgeous. Like State Farm Stadium. Like it's a shame. Like it should, it's open air. Like they have a retractable roof, like that they can keep it however they want. Like I don't know.
Shawn Michaels retired there.
There's the design district, Westgate Design District. It's right outside the stadium, and I knew about it because I went to go see AEW Double or Nothing there last year.
Yeah,
and I went there again for the Fiesta Bowl. It's gorgeous, like really nice, like bar and restaurant area with the Desert Diamond Arena is right there, walkable distance from the stadium. It's like super nice. Like that place should be a hotbed for like football fandom, tourism, etc. So the fact that the Cardinals are irrelevant is kind of sad because I think that should be a really fun place to go watch games. So my answer. I
want to know one fact too about the Cardinals. Just sorry to cut you off.
Sure.
Do you know that they've been around for over 100 years, yet their longest tenured head coach is 6 seasons?
That's hilarious. And I think, isn't that Bruce Arians?
I think it's Ken Wisenhunt, and then Bruce Arians is like second.
Yeah, and Bruce Arians left. It's not even like Bruce Arians got to like stay there the whole time. I saw a stat what's the other stat that they have less playoff wins as a franchise than like not even like someone like Mahomes. It's like they have less playoff wins as a franchise than like Josh Allen. Like it's very, very few. In between like the Super Bowl run in 2008 and the 2015 run with Bruce Arians, because the 2013 and 2014 Bruce Arians teams didn't win a playoff game. 2013 missed the playoffs at 10-6, and 2014 went one and done because Carson Palmer got hurt. So they only had one playoff win. That's right. They only had one playoff win in 2015 because 2 seeds got buys back then. So
a great overtime game against Green Bay, I believe it was in the divisional round. I think Rodgers threw like a sick Hail Mary to send it to overtime, but then the Cardinals won in OT.
They're kind of like the Bengals and the Jaguars, where they will be bad or mediocre for long stretches of time. And then when they're good, it's like Super Bowl. Like the Bengals, Super Bowl in 88, Super Bowl a few years ago, the Jaguars conference title game. The 2010 to 2020 decade for the Jaguars is literally no playoffs every single year and then AFC Championship game. Like it makes no sense.
It's also too the fact they almost there's a very good chance they make that Super Bowl that year, but obviously, look, they had a really bad fourth quarter, and the rest is history for Tom.
And Miles Jack wasn't down, and as a Patriots fan, we could say Miles Jack wasn't down. Yeah, oh, really, even after
Gilmore, great PBU on fourth down.
your renewed success, and you still can't admit it. Well, and my answer for the worst spot is I would pick Cleveland, not just because, yes, the obvious like Clevelandness of it
Andrew
all.
Berry not get fired?
That's the concern, is if they go like 4-12 again, are the fans going to want Andrew Berry fired? And as we just saw with the Dolphins, like if you fire the GM, as we just saw with the Falcons, I think it's fair to say Raheem Morris probably deserved another year. But they had
signed their walking papers the day they drafted Michael Penix Jr. and they had to explain it to Arthur Blank. I'm sorry, the two of them going. You see the two of them in the war room explaining to Arthur Blank, "Hey, this is why we drafted Michael Penix." That was the writing on the wall.
That was, and Raheem does own blame for that too. I'm not just putting that on Terry Fontenot, but
no, I am too.
Yeah, man. Fontenot got 5 years, and when they fired Fontenot, you're in this weird spot where it's like, well, we can't hire a GM above Raheem. Then the GM's just going to want to bring in his own guy. We can't get the best GM candidate, so they end up firing Raheem. And what if that happens with Andrew Berry? What if Andrew Berry gets fired next year? Then whoever coaches them is going to be like, well, I've only been here for a year. The shit isn't my fault. I wasn't here for the Watson trade. Like, but you might get fired anyways, just because even if you didn't do anything wrong. So that's probably the situation I'd probably least like to take as a coach. And besides, like, you don't have good quarterback play. It's an aging roster. Like, their cap is a mess. For people who listen to like good cap shows out there, we have some Brown friend, or my friend Adam. Salute to you out there, Adam. In our Discord, he talks a lot as a Browns fan. He always talks about this, that their cap problems are not just because of Watson. Like, Andrew Berry's made other mistakes. He keeps extending their offensive linemen and adds 4 years to the cup. Yeah, and they can't stay healthy, and they're getting older. And so, like, you're in this weird spot where your offensive line isn't even that good, but a lot of your cap is devoted to these guys as they're getting in their mid-30s. Like, it's not good cap management. So you're not working with a lot on the offense and defense. Like, sure, you have the defensive player of the year, but we literally saw it this year. He alone can't carry you past 5-12. And even if you get a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders, aside from dealing with the hype that you have to deal with that, I think it's tough. I think if you take that job and you win 6 games, which would be an improvement from last year, you still could get fired just because Andrew Berry might get fired. And I think that's really dangerous for a coach. So I would avoid that job. And then the best job to take, I agree with you, on Tennessee. And if not Tennessee, probably Pittsburgh. Just because I do agree with the people that say there's no guarantee just because they've only had
run it back or burn it down. There's no in between with them.
Yeah. Like there's that stat. They've only had 3 head coaches since 1969. There's no guarantee that you get 20 years. It's a different world now than it was in 2007, then 1992, then 1969. It's a different world now. There's no guarantee that you just get 20 years like Tomlin did. But I do think you wouldn't go one and done. I do think you would get some amount of time. So, like, I'm shocked they're not ranked higher on some of these coaching lists. Like, me personally, like, I would put them up pretty highly because I think if I take the Steelers job, I'm at least going to finish the length of my contract. I'm at least going to get 4 years. And I think that's worthwhile because I don't think you can guarantee you're going to get 4 years at a lot of these other places.
So I was listening today to Pro Football Talk with Florio and Sims, and obviously they were because Art Rooney did speak to the media yesterday, which brought up the question, will Mike Tomlin address it? Have you ever heard of the Pittsburgh Steelers 1974 draft?
No. It's just like, Hall of Famer.
Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, Mike Webster, and Donnie Artshell.
That's pretty strong.
I'm pretty sure all those men are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, if it's not all of them, it's like 4 out of 5. Yeah.
And Mike Webster, probably one of the greatest offensive linemen in NFL history as well. With Pittsburgh, look, that division's weird, and I love everyone who's like, why wasn't Zach Taylor fired? Oh, like this, like, we lost the Jets. Why wasn't he fired? For those of you out there who do not know, Mike Brown is one of the cheapest owners, and he's not going to pay someone, and we've seen this with Marvin Harrison, he's not going to pay them to not work for the team. So, and I believe he's got 1 more year left on his deal, so I really think if next year, hot take for this one, if Cincinnati doesn't improve next year, I think it's burned to the ground and Joe Burrow's gone.
Yeah. And I obviously, like, in today's day and age, the player's going to do what they want to do. You might see quarterbacks like request trades like star players in the NBA do. I'm of the opinion that Burrow deserves some of this blame. Burrow was adamant to them, you have to re-sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And there were a lot of us out there, and I was one of them, and a lot of people out there as well that were saying, you don't need to re-sign both of them. You can re-sign one of them and then spread more of the resources to your defense, to your offensive line, because you, the quarterback, make a fuck ton of money. And that's, to me, the biggest argument against Joe Burrow being an elite quarterback is, if you are this clear-cut top 3 guy, why do we need to give you the best wide receiver core in football? Like, Patrick Mahomes lost all his receivers. Josh Allen lost all his receivers. Lamar Jackson has one that he can trust outside of his tight ends. That's kind of how it goes. If you're at that level, you don't get a lot to work with because the logic is you will carry the offense because you are so good. Why are we paying T. Higgins and Jamar Chase a combined $50 million? It makes no sense. So Burrow has to own this because Burrow threatened them. Burrow told them you have to pay T. Higgins or else I'm going to request a trade. Burrow has to own this too. It's not just the Bengals. It's on him too.
And then he does the whole woe is me press conference. I hate to lose. I hate this, where it's kind of like you kind of setting yourself up for that. Like, you set yourself up to where now it's like this whole dynamic of just, hey, like, you're partially to blame for this too. Like, you can't just be like, oh, woe is me. We haven't won games. Yeah, it sucks. They haven't made the playoffs in 3 years. Obviously, that fan base hangs on to that 2021 season like the kid who peaked in high school. But at the same time, too, it's just kind of like, yeah, But no, I'm going back to the point about Pittsburgh. Like, I like the opportunity. I just think there's just, because of the lack of pressure to win, that's why I'd rather go to Tennessee. Meanwhile, if you go to Pittsburgh, the fans are going to be right away, hey, we need to win. We need this. We need that. There are some other jobs out there that are good, but I think there's some of the bad jobs where they kind of got to learn, like, be patient. Like, I think with Vegas, you have to be patient no matter what you do in the draft, even though I do think there's a world out there where do you pass on Mendoza to, trade back and try to build assets for the future? Yes. Do you try to trade Max Crosby before when his value is at all-time high? Also, yes. But I just think with Tennessee, there's the most potential there to have that skyrocket with Cam Ward if you surround him with the right pieces. And, you have an all-pro defensive tackle as well in Jeffrey Simmons. So just got to build a few things around and go from there. But without further ado, and we're going to save the best for last, we got divisional weekend to talk about. We got 4 great games. I'm going to say this. I had one of my best betting weekends last weekend. 5-1 on my picks.
Nice.
5-1. The only one I got wrong was Monday night. I thought Pittsburgh was due because I didn't realize this. Their last home loss on Monday Night Football was in October of 1991.
I do, because we played them on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago, and they kept putting up that stat. That's why I was on them too. And all these losses where Tomlin got embarrassed in the playoffs were almost always on the road. They never really get embarrassed at home, so they haven't had a home playoff game non-COVID since 2017. So I really
and their asses whooped by Jacksonville.
And I was not surprised at all that the Texans offense played well. Didn't play well. I fully expected that. I fully expected the Texans offense to not score that much. So I thought Pittsburgh would keep it close and steal it. And they did keep it close, then 2 defensive touchdowns, and then they quit. And yeah, the rest is history.
Best pick for me last week, honestly, San Francisco plus 6.5. Something in me, I was just like, they find ways to win. I don't know if they're going to win this week, but we'll see. And then obviously Carolina take a bow plus 10.5. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And also the over 46.5 as well. Because I know I saw a tweet from, I think John Ewing's his name. He's from Bet. He does data at BetMGM, and he posted something like 98 or 99% of people were on the under. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, fade the public, go for the over, because last week the sports books cleaned up.
Yep.
But we start this weekend in the Griffin couldn't care less who loses bowl as the Denver Broncos take on the Buffalo Bills. I'm honestly so torn with this one because if the Bills lose, it's that, it's the crumbling universe and they can't get it done. But if the Broncos lose,
you get to host a title game.
We get the, well, if we win, which we'll get to. But if the Broncos lose, that F word gets spoken a little bit louder. The people have been harping New England on all year long, where it's, hey, you're in the playoffs. You haven't won a playoff game since Super Bowl 50. First time hosting a playoff game since the 2015 AFC Championship. But I honestly, I'm leaning Buffalo just because it's the same reason why I picked them last week. When you need a person to rise up in the playoffs, I just, until they play, if they ever play New England again, I just can't bet against Josh Allen.
No, I get it. And Josh Allen, this is why people are picking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. I am not one of those people, but
I'm not.
Burrow, Allen's going to be the better quarterback in almost every game he plays. And he's going to have more playoff experience than everybody he plays. He's going to have more playoff experience than Matthew Stafford, believe it or not. So, obviously, not that you're worried about Matthew Stafford's composure or ability to feel the moment, of course, but just saying in terms of number of playoff games played. So I'm going to pick Denver. I do recognize the risks here. Obviously, I have Bo Nix. The other team is Josh Allen. If the game's close in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen's probably going to make the plays that Bo Nix is not. I fully recognize that. I'm going to pick Denver because
that's red zone defense, by the way.
Yeah, and it's Denver's rushing defense is also really strong. Like, I feel like that's under discussed. Like, everyone knows about the other side. Everybody knows that the Bills' run defense is terrible, and you need to have a good running game to take advantage of them. Jacksonville had success on the ground. They just didn't run it as much as they should have. It's not like they abandoned it, but it was just like, I think Tate, Tootin, and Etienne combined had like 15 carries or something like that. It's like, I would have thought the number would have been higher than that. Like, they were averaging like 5 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry. Now, RJ Harvey probably, and like Jaleel McLaughlin and all these other guys that Peyton likes to throw in randomly to get carries at the last minute, like probably not as dangerous. Like, it's unclear. Like, I don't know if we know for sure that J.K. Dobbins is coming back. I know that was the rumor. It seems like he's practicing, but we don't know yet if he'll be ready for game day. And you know what? And with these days, you got to be careful with these things, because Lane Johnson, people thought was coming back last week and didn't end up playing. So nope. Zach Tom for the Packers, another one. People thought he was coming back and didn't end up playing. So you can't really know for sure. It might be one of those things where J.K. Dobbins is not playing this week, but would play next week. Maybe. We'll see. So Denver, not necessarily the kind of rush offense that can maybe expose this. But Denver's rush defense is really good. It's third in the NFL by DVOA. Shout out to Randy. Third rushing defense by DVOA is the Denver Broncos run defense. And if you're the Bills offense, your main power is the running game, both with Allen and with Cook. I think losing Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis is kind of a big deal. I know no one's going to care about that. No one's going to care about the no-name wide receivers. But one, Tyrell Shavers made plays against man coverage, which the Broncos are going to play with Surtain and with the Vance Joseph scheme. Two, Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis were playing snaps last week. That's how they got hurt, obviously. Like, for all their problems, like Keon Coleman last week only had one target. Like, McDermott, for better or for worse, was trusting Tyrell Shavers and Gabe Davis in a playoff game over a lot of the other wide receivers on their depth chart. So can Brandon Cooks like have another 50 to 100-yard game? I don't think so. Not when there's no other receivers that Denver has to worry about. Denver's main worry is Kincaid and James Cook. It's not any of the other receivers that Buffalo's going to put out there. Like Shakir,
Kincaid left in a walking boot last week too, so it might be Dawson Knox they have to rely on more.
Yes, and Kincaid doesn't even, and Kincaid, Chris Ravon said this on the Action Network podcast. Kincaid doesn't even play every snap anyways. Like, Kincaid already only plays like half of the snaps as is, or 60% of the snaps, and he's coming off of an injury. So there's no guarantee that he plays his full allotment of snaps. And Khalil Shakir, I'm not trying to disrespect Khalil Shakir. He's been Buffalo's best receiver this year. Khalil Shakir succeeded against the primary zone-based defense last week. I think he's going to see more man this week. McMillan for the Broncos in the slot is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL on a coverage basis. I think he can limit Khalil Shakir. So if you limit Khalil Shakir, you're relying on Brandon Cooks and Keon Coleman on the outside. And I think Surtain can cover Brandon Cooks. And so is Keon Coleman really going to make enough plays in this game to scare you? I'm not so sure. And so I don't trust Bo Nix. I don't trust the Denver running game. Sean Payton is 6-12 against the spread in the first half line in his playoff games. 6-12 against the spread. So basically, this game's a pick 'em. So what that stat is telling us is that Denver is losing at halftime. Maybe. Or tied at halftime. Maybe. But I'm going to, that is certainly possible. That's all very scary. Bo Nix is scary. Josh Allen is scary. I think analytically, if you remove the quarterbacks, I think the rest of this Bills roster isn't good enough to win this game. I think the Denver defense can shut down the run. I think the Bills don't have enough receivers to scare Denver. And Denver's pass rush is really good too. Like, I just don't know if the Bills can score 20 points here. And I don't have that much confidence in Bo Nix. I don't think RJ Harvey's going to break the game open, but I think they have a little bit more offensively. I know the Bills' pass defense is really underrated. Like, everyone shits on their run defense, ignoring that their pass defense is actually really, really strong. I get that. You know, maybe RJ Harvey and Bo Nix scrambles can maybe make enough plays here. So I'm going to take Denver to win a low-scoring, close game. I like the under here a lot.
46.5.
Yeah, I think this is like a 20-17, 23-17 type game. Even if Buffalo wins. True, like, I could totally see Buffalo winning. I cannot see Buffalo scoring 30. I cannot see Buffalo scoring 27. I cannot. So
I wanted to change my pick, but I'm sticking to my convictions of Buffalo.
Hey,
but
I picked, you know what? I picked Jacksonville last week. So by all means, like, I get it.
I just said it last week just because I know there's a lot of questions with Jacksonville, and I just said Josh Allen in that environment. You know, the whole thing too about, not winning a road playoff game since 92. all the pressures of this, having Tony Romo vocally philattle you for 3.5 hours last Sunday.
It wasn't a tough atmosphere though. Mile
High is going to be different.
Mile High is a tough atmosphere. Foxborough is a tough atmosphere. Jacksonville in January, it's not. I mean, the crowd was. It's not even a knock on the crowd. The crowd was good. It's just. It's not like It's just not like an intimidating weather element. Yeah.
There's not enough. Just playoff, just reputation from Jacksonville to where you could say it's a tough place to play. Like you can look at Foxborough and Gillette Stadium. You can look at Mile High Stadium. You can look at the two venues that are in the NFC divisional games this weekend as well as tough playoff venues. Where we go to next, where San Francisco found a way to get it done. Bobby Saleh is going to be a head coach. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but he's really showing what he can do. We have another example, too. We don't know. Is Fred Warner going to be coming back from that ankle fracture that he suffered back in February, even though that power plant's being more and more in play, which was really ironic when they showed the photo of him practicing. You see the power plant in the background that's apparently been causing all these soft tissue injuries.
Yeah. But there's an article about that in the Washington Post today. Yeah, it's crazy.
I want to do the same thing I did last week, where I do want to take San Francisco on the points again at +6.5, just because I don't think there's a way that. I agree. And also because last time these two teams played, it was 13-3. That is the least amount of points that Kyle Shanahan has scored with the Niners since 2017. That was his first year when that roster was terrible. I really think this game hits the over just because of what we know from last time's result. Everyone's like, 13-3, this is going to happen again. It's no problem. 46.5 is the same number. But I do think that, and we say this a lot in the playoffs, like we saw it with Philly, we saw it with LA, and we saw it with the Chargers, and we saw it with the Steelers, where a lot of your flaws get really elevated and spotlighted when you make the playoffs. We even saw it to an extent with Green Bay too, but that was more just injury luck. But I think with San Francisco, I think the injury of George Kittle is really going to catch up to them. I do think Jawan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey honestly has to go full psycho mode for them to win this football game, or someone we're not expecting, like a DeMarcus Robinson again, like a Kendrick Bourne. Tongus. I don't. Not Ruckert. Who's the former Ohio State tight end that's on there now? Luke Farrell or Fickle.
Sure.
Him, and we also don't know if Ricky's playing or not. I haven't heard anything on that. I haven't looked too much into that front. And I know there's the whole stuff. When the light shine brightest and Sam Darnold's really shit the bed. I just think Seattle's going to find a way because, like we said, that place Saturday night better be loud with the most capital L you've ever seen in your life.
I like San Fran on the points too. I'm going to pick them outright. No one out there has to follow me on this because I have no analytical argument as to why they're going to win this game outright. I do have. We can talk about
because Brock Purdy's done it. The way I would do it, and I hate that I've been cutting off so much, is just the fact that Brock Purdy's been there and done that.
And there's that stat that Kyle Shanahan every year he's been, and it's not just Kyle Shanahan, it's a Niners stat too. It was true when Jim Harbaugh was there as well. They either
no playoffs.
They either miss the playoffs or they make the conference title game. And we're only one step away from that. Another angle I like is they're playing Seattle twice in 3 weeks. We talked about this in the show last time. That's a very favorable spot for the team that lost the first game. The most famous example this year is Bears Packers. The Bengals. That was I think that was twice in 4 weeks, but either way. Oh no. Yeah, no. The first two Bears Packers games, not the playoff game. The first two.
Yeah. When they barely lost to Lambeau, and then there was that bomb to DJ Moore in overtime.
And Giants Eagles earlier in the year on Thursday Night Football. The best example is Thanksgiving, Baltimore Bengals. Bengals destroyed them, and then 2 weeks later, Baltimore beat them 24-0 in Cincinnati. Yep. Like these things happen. This is a twice in 3 week divisional game. Now, the way that this is different, and this is the one thing that worries about me. Seattle hasn't had to prep for a game in between them. Like Seattle, prep for San Fran, and they're prepping for San Fran again. Like they hadn't. It's not like they prep for San Fran, prepared for someone else, and then come back to San Fran. I do think it's slightly different in that. So if I'm wrong and the Niners just get killed in this game, that's going to be the reason why. It's a twice in 3 week spot, but Seattle played the same team back to back. Seattle didn't have to prep for a third game in between there that obfuscated the prep time. Because think about it, they prep for San Fran going into that game, and then they could just literally redo what they just did. So I'm still going to ride the 2 and 3 weeks trend, but if I'm wrong, I think that's going to be the reason why I'm wrong. But for now, I'm going to ride the 2 division games in 3 weeks trend. And the Shanahan Niners always make the conference title game whenever they're in the playoffs trend. And
like, I'm not going to bet Seattle directly on the money line, but I'm betting San Francisco plus 6.5 on the
I
points.
do.
It's our divisional points rule too.
Yeah, of course. Like the dog catching a lot of points in a divisional game. At some books, you could still get a 7. I can get a 7 in my book down here. Obviously, and my brother got it at 7.5 early in the week. I think that's a slam if you can get it. Warner's not. I looked it up while you were talking about it. The Niners confirm Warner's not going to play, but Pearsall is a possibility. Ricky Pearsall, for those who don't remember, was their best player, their best receiver when they beat the Niners, when they beat Seattle week 1 at Seattle. Ricky Pearsall, I think, had like 80 yards that game or something like that. Like, yeah, he was on my fantasy team. That's why I was tracking it at the time. But he had like a bunch of like high leverage down the field catches. And I think he had 4 catches for 108 yards on 7 targets, no touchdowns in week 1 against Seattle. Like, I think he's a key weapon in this game because they don't have Kittle, because they don't have Brandon Ayuk. They don't have a lot of guys on defense. And even though their defense is very weakened, is their defense really going to allow 30 to Seattle here? Maybe. And if they do, I'm just going to lose and I'm just going to have to eat it. But I think in a division game between 2 like really good organizations like this, I think the game's probably going to be tight. And for that reason, I think they can keep Sam Darnold somewhat in check. Like, they can't hide him forever. They can't just run the ball forever. They got killed on the ground in the week 18 game. Like, if I'm San Francisco, like, you devote extra resources to make sure that Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker have very mediocre days. And then if Sam Darnold beats you with 300-yard passing, tip your cap. Sometimes you lose because your plan doesn't work, but I think that's their best plan to try to win this game and maybe keep the game close. Hope Sam Darnold turns it over. Hope Sam Darnold takes a bad sack in field goal range, something like that. And analytically, I do think, yeah, as beat up as the Niners are on offense, I think if they do get Pearsall back, I think Tongas has had enough good games when Kittle's out. I think they can do enough to get some points here. And that's why I kind of like them I like them a lot on the spread. Obviously, I'm going to take them on the money line. And I don't recommend that to everybody because I don't fully like know how they're going to win this game. But I do think as beat up as they are, everyone's going to freak out about not having Kittle. I think having Pearsall back is a big deal. I think having Tongas to replace some of Kittle's production is a big deal. I think McCaffrey's healthy. McCaffrey's going to get 10 targets. I think they have enough to score some points here. So I love them on the spread because I think they can get to 17. And if they get to 17, I lose the bet. If Seattle gets to 24, I'll take that chance because Seattle, everyone must remember, is worse at home under Mike McDonald. They are 14-2 on the road, and they are 9-8 at home under Mike McDonald. They are straight up mediocre at home and amazing on the road. No one knows why. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. I don't understand it. When these two teams played in Seattle, San Francisco won. So I'm going to take the Niners on the spread, sprinkle a little bit on the money line. But yes, definitely the spread. That's the main takeaway.
I have a crazy anytime. It is Luke Farrell, by the way. Yeah. I have a crazy anytime touchdown bet for this game.
Who?
Kyle Juszczyk.
Ooh, I like that a lot. Yeah.
I don't know what the odds are. I just looked it up, and I'm like, he had 2 receptions for 32 yards the last time they played. And I remember, I think there was a game a couple years ago in Seattle that he caught a touchdown. Obviously, I don't know if you know, him and Kittle and like their wives are very close. Obviously, Kyle's wife is the one who does all the NFL clothing, Kristen Juszczyk. So basically, I'm looking at it where I'm like, and with George getting hurt too, it's just one of those like sentimental romantic, like how can you not be romantic about football stories? Sunday afternoon, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Besides it's being the team I love, I know the defense for the Texans is awesome. Basically that defense is like an SEC Thanos final boss, like has all the Infinity Stones. But did you know that in the last 6 weeks since November, the Texans have played the 8th ranked Colts defense with Riley Leonard, the Chargers defense that's ranked 20th, the Raiders 32nd ranked, Cardinals 22nd ranked, Chiefs 21st ranked, and the Colts ranked 8th. And also, fun fact too, that they played the Seahawks defense. They gave up 27 points, and they played the Jags 11th ranked offense, where they gave up 29 points. Even though I know they won, I don't remember if they beat Seattle or not, but I know they
lost to Seattle.
They lost to Seattle, and I know they beat Jacksonville in that crazy game as well. And also, too, when Denver played, there was that 18-15 game as well.
Yep.
This game, honestly, look, you can say what you want about the defenses. The New England defense, if they play the way they did last Sunday, everyone's saying, oh, Woody Marks isn't going for 100 against this offense, against this defense. Christian Kirk had a career day. If they get beat by Christian Kirk, it is what it is. Like the same thing with San Francisco. I just think the Nico Collins loss is going to shine a bright light. Dalton Schultz is another player I'd watch for just because New England seems to get killed in the middle of the field by linebackers, even though the bastard didn't even have – I need him to get 40 yards. He only had 12 on Monday. But just when it comes down to which quarterback do I trust more, I'm sorry. I'm taking my guy more than anything. I just, hey, 2 minutes left in the game. Who do you want to see make a play? Like CJ Stroud pretty much. Look, if Woody Marks is run for 100 yards, the game's a lot closer. And if the defense doesn't commit elder abuse, I think they're fine. I also think the Patriots are a great team this year when it comes to learning from their mistakes. And I do think Will Campbell will have a better game, even though he's going to have to handle, like I said, one of the most ferocious D-lines in football. You let the sacks happen, it is what it is. Drake last Sunday, he had to make the plays when he had to make a play on his feet in the air with that touchdown to Hunter Henry, even though Derwin James almost had a beautiful pass breakup. But I'm just saying this with a simple fact. The Patriots also, fun fact, I know we're going on a tangent. I know soon you have to head out soon as well.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay. Where is the stat? Where's the stat? Did you know that when Drake May is a -3 favorite or more, he is 9-2 against the spread and 11-0 straight up?
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
I think
Patriots currently are still sitting at -3.5. Line really hasn't moved. It's gone from like maybe 2 to 3, jump kind of up and down, but it hasn't gone beyond 3 points.
I don't know how. I'm trying to be careful because like I almost like
also Houston 0-6 in divisional round games where they've only played either the Ravens, the Chiefs, or the Patriots. Fun fact.
Like how does Houston score in this game? They had 2 defensive touchdowns on Monday Night Football, and one of their touchdown drives came after the first defensive touchdown when the Steelers defense basically quit, and it was very soft on the ground. I agree with you on the run defense thing. Like Milton Williams is back. I might just take Woody Marks' under straight up. Like it's at 55, I think. Because the other reason I like it is because they were playing from ahead on Monday Night Football. And especially at the end in the fourth quarter when he had a lot of yards on that last touchdown drive. That was playing.
The Steelers also Steelered themselves in that game.
Correct. And he's splitting snaps with Nick Chubb. It's not even like he's the every down back. So in a game like this, if they're going to be trailing, they might throw to Woody Marks. Like, I don't know if Woody Marks is going to get 100 on the ground. So, yeah, I like Woody Marks' under quite a bit. I'm with you on that in the Milton Williams change. The Patriots defense looked awesome last week. Awesome. I think
Gonzalez did practice today, by the way, as per our favorite correspondent, Sophie Weller.
So he's likely coming back, you think?
He was in a non-contact jersey yesterday. He was in a full go in practice today. The other thing, too, people are saying, like, I've heard this stuff. We go, oh, are they rushing him to play? And, like, oh, you know, the Nico Collins thing really shines a light on why do they do the Monday night primetime game, which I do agree. I think you should do 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday. But I just think the fact that, you know, Christian Gonzalez also was available to the media. If a guy, and Nico Collins wasn't. Usually when a guy's not available to the media and they have a concussion, it's pretty bad. Like Gonzalez, you kind of knew, like when he got up, you're like, hey, something's not right. They got him out of the game, but he seemed like he was in good spirits. Nico Collins, it just always seemed like it was going to be a struggle just to clear.
Yeah, no, and I know I'm biased as like an aspiring neurologist here, but like not all concussions are the same. Like Christian Gonzalez was spotted by the unofficial spotter and had to like leave the game. Nico Collins was carted off. Guys, I promise you, if the game was on Sunday, Nico Collins would probably not play. I think Nico Collins didn't even practice today. Like a straight DNP. Like not just like not even like what?
I think he was a DNP.
Yeah, like a full DNP. Like it's not even like he was able to get like light work in on the side, the aerobic drills. He like nowhere near cleared any parts of the concussion protocol. Like I think Nico had no shot to play this week, and it was a bad concussion. He was carted off. He had a towel over his head. Like it was just. It's not that. It's very easy to be like Christian Gonzalez and Nico, who is and isn't going to play. It's like no. Like the moment those 2 games happened, I was like Nico's definitely not playing, and Christian it seems like he's going to play, but you never know with concussions. He might have different symptoms the next day, but nonetheless, it seems like he's going to play. And so with Christian Gonzalez, with how good the Patriots D-line looked last week, I don't know how Houston scores. I understand that there's been games that Nico Collins has been hurt and the Texans have gotten by. Those are not playoff games. Those are not road playoff games against a defense seemingly peaking after how they played last week. So
it's going to be a snowy environment. Weather's going to be a huge factor in this game.
And Christian Kirk had games this year where he wasn't even targeted. And yeah, he had 100 yards last week. I get it. Like a large chunk of it was on 2 plays. That's kind of how the Texans play. Like CJ Stroud will look terrible for most of the game, and then he'll uncork some 60-yard throw down the field. I feel like I'm completely speaking from the hip here. I don't have the stats to back this up. The sense I get from Vrabel and watching New England this year, it seems like they don't allow that many explosive plays down the field. I could be wrong on that. Like you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Also, the other fact too, that last year everyone was talking about. I have another bookmark stat from great reporter covers us, Doug Kyatt. Basically, so the last time the Patriots played the Texans played the Patriots, CJ Stroud had 3 touchdowns with an interception. Christian Gonzalez played, Nico Collins did not. Did you know that Christian Gonzalez is the only common starter that played in that game? That's playing in this game.
Was that what,
Like,
2 years ago?
No, last year. It was Drake May's first ever start as a Patriot. But
Oh,
like Jelani Tavai and Anthony Jennings and are still on the team, but Christian Gonzalez is the only common starter between the Patriots defense from week 6 of 2024
That's
to
crazy.
today.
That's crazy. In one season? That's
Yes.
unbelievable. Well, because Carlton Davis was free agency, Milton Williams was free agency.
Robert
Edge
Spillane was
rusher.
free agency.
Who?
Harold Landry was free
Harold
agency.
Landry was free agency. Who's the other edge rusher? Oh, Kayvon Chason?
Yeah, Kayvon Chase on free agency.
Free agency. Jalen Hawkins wasn't on the team? Or maybe he wasn't a starter?
He wasn't that. I think he was more of a special teamer.
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating, though. I'd never known that stat. That's crazy. That's actually really, really cool. So, and Robert Spillane, another one who wasn't there last year.
By the way, I just want to point something out right now with more stats from Jordan. His name's Jordan Moore. He's just from DraftKings. Please point out that. Sure. Total defense: Texans 1, Chargers 5th. Pass defense: the Texans are 6th, the Chargers were 5th. Red zone defense: the Chargers are 4th. The Texans are 16th. The Texans have allowed way more passes of 20 plus and 40 plus yards this season than the Chargers have.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I forgot to mention it. Like, as the Texans are an elite defense. Don't get me wrong. They have an elite pass rush. They have elite corners, and they hit harder than any defense in the NFL.
Kamari Lassiter is one of the more underrated corners in the DBs in the league.
Yes. However, one thing I've noticed watching them, and I heard Ollie Connolly, who does a great job at the read optional. Highly recommend everyone listening, if you love football, to subscribe to his Substack. He does a really, really smart job analyzing the game at a really high level. He was explaining, and I've always kind of thought this watching them. They're so aggressive. They're not aggressive in the sense of they blitz a lot, because they don't blitz a lot. They don't need to. They trust Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson and Autry. They trust those guys to all get home. But one thing I've really noticed watching them is that their linebackers and their safeties are always going downhill. What they want to do is, you're so afraid of the pass rush, you throw a bubble screen. That's what they want. And then when you throw that bubble screen, the guy gets depleted. Like, they kill you at the first level. They're always running downhill. They're always hunting to tackle you at the line of scrimmage. Yes, and sometimes when you are so overly aggressive like that, you're susceptible to play action. You're susceptible to misdirection plays. And all of a sudden, Drake May is throwing an outlet pass to
one of the best teams to play action in the league.
Yes, and there's like 30 yards of space. Like, and you're like, I thought this was an elite defense. How is this guy so wide open? It's because they're so aggressive that a smart OC could sometimes use that aggression against them. And yeah, like I think they're susceptible to getting beat deep. I think their gamble is going to be, okay, maybe our aggression will get us beat with a bomb, but Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter will beat up Will Campbell and whoever the right tackle is and get to Drake. Oh, Morgan Morris's. Our edge rushers will beat those guys up and sack Drake May before he has a chance to get rid of the ball. That's probably their logic. But, Campbell, I know Campbell struggled last week, but I assume he would I assume he would play better.
The left side of the line really struggled. The right side of the line of Moses and Onwenu played really well. Garrett Bradbury's been very consistent throughout the year, but the rookies really had bad experiences.
Well, McDaniels knows what he's doing. Like if it's getting really out of control, can't you just have Ramondre chip in? Can't you have Hunter Henry chip in? Like, you could do things.
Ramondre picked up that beautiful blitz against you guys week 18.
Yeah, and Travion Henderson destroyed Dayon Henley in that Chargers game last week as well on the blitz pickup on the Henry touchdown.
Swivel.
Yeah, so I like New England here quite a bit. Like, you saying that stat about him being 9-2 against the spread when it's 3 or greater, that makes me want to bet it, because I do think New England's going to win. And I wouldn't be surprised if they cover, because I wouldn't be surprised if Houston struggles to break 10 points. CJ Stroud last week had 11% turnover worthy play percentage per PFF. To put in perspective how bad that is, that's like Tua against the Colts in the opener when he got imploded and had 3 turnovers and 17 dropbacks. That was a similar turnover worthy play percentage to what CJ Stroud did on Monday Night Football. With all the fumbles he had that weren't recovered, with the interception. I don't think Houston's going to score. I could be wrong here, but I think without Nico Collins, with Woody Marks not going to go for 100 yards, I think it's going to be really hard for Houston to score. I think New England could probably cover the spread just by getting to 14 or 17 points. So I think I agree with you. I think I'm going to take New England on the spread as well. Are you going to be seasons? Are we still house money season? No matter what, obviously you think they're going to win, and you want to host the AFC Championship game if Buffalo wins. I get that, but generally house money season, got the playoff win out of the way.
So we haven't spoken about them much, but I've referenced them a hell of a lot on the show. I don't have any merchandise directly behind me, but I just went through the exact same thing with baseball. Obviously, look, they were a huge underdog and they played a juggernaut in the World Series, and it destroyed me emotionally that night. If they make the AFC Championship game, expectations will change. But if they go out in the divisional round, which also fun fact for the Patriots, haven't lost in the divisional round since that Jets playoff game in 2010. Obviously, I know it was a much different time, but after that, they have not lost the divisional round playoff game. And I believe all of those have been played at Gillette Stadium as well, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, like I said, Tom Brady, but different story. The other little thing I was looking at too while you were talking is the passing yards over unders. CJ Stroud's minus is 206.5, and Drake May's 219. Yes. Also, the highest Texan, by the way, for receiving yards is Dalton Schultz at 44.5. It's basically meaning like unless like a Jaden Higgins has a big game or an Xavier Hutchinson, like one of those guys. But the way I look at this whole situation right now, if they win, like I say this, if they lose Sunday, yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to sting. You're going to get a lot of the people coming out, oh, look, they played this defense. They're not that good. Yada, yada, yada. They weren't supposed to be here. But because here's the thing. If they get to the AFC Championship game, they will be playing a team that I just want to ruin their fan base's season.
Yeah.
Because if there's a timeline where we fast forward 7 months from now and I'm here being on fucking jackass to Greg, I will take very much pride in that. But here's the thing, though. If the tables get flipped and Buffalo beats New England to go to the Super Bowl, I'll look at them and say, yeah, your team won, but your team was supposed to win. I know New England's been the better team this year. Buffalo's goal is Super Bowl or bust. New England's goal, just win the week. That's my thing. Win the week, take it 1 week at a time. They got to win this week to get the honor to play next week. So for right now, I still view it as house money, but I've heard this expression more and more. The deeper you go into the playoffs, the more painful a loss is.
Yeah.
So that's why a loss this weekend would suck, but it's not, I always look at this team where I'm like, they have a very good coaching staff. They're probably going to bring a lot of them back. The team's still young. They still have a lot of money to spend, and they still have all their draft capital for this offseason. So it's just one of those things now where it's, hey, build on it to where next year I'm going to lower expectations because I don't think 14-3 is going to happen. I think they'll be somewhere between like an 11-12 win team next year just because of who they play. There'll be a couple of those games that, you know what, hey, they lose here and there. But I always say this too with you. And here's the other thing with this game. New England, they had that bad loss in December. The Texans haven't lost a game since November. And you know what? Losing a football game in December builds your character instead of hurting it. Like, I think that loss to like Denver, for example, I think they needed that loss to Jacksonville back in December when they absolutely got dog walked. They needed that because it woke you up. It humbles you a bit. Where it's like, hey, not every week's good. Meanwhile, Houston, this is a team that I know the Patriots lost to the Raiders too, but the Houston Texans were a 13.5-point favorite and won that game by 2 points. They've taken advantage of some of their situations. And Monday night was the same thing. They beat a Pittsburgh team because Aaron Rodgers is old and decrepit. Yeah. And everyone thinks that, you know what? Oh, because they did that, they're going to do this. No, I have the Patriots winning this game like 23-10, 20-10, something like that. Low scoring. I think it's just going to be like a low scoring, chew you out and kill you kind of game for Patriots.
I think it's going to be kind of similar to last week.
Yeah,
last Patriots game. Like maybe more than 3 points, but yeah, like something like that. Yeah.
If they win this game, though, I already hate the people that are going, oh, Mickey, like the stupid prediction apps, like Paulie Market was saying, oh, Mickey Mouse season continues, go Nico Collins. I'm sorry, it's not our fault he's got a concussion. Injuries are a part of sport.
Yeah, no, and that's like the Eagles would have loved to have had Lane Johnson last week. The Niners would have loved to have had like half their starting lineup. Like this is just life. It is what it is.
Yeah. We got one more game to talk about before the biggest game of the week end that BigRat will be at. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Look, I know the Rams are the better team. I really think in my heart of hearts, we're heading for a collision course for a Patriots-Bears Super Bowl. Plus, I don't know if you've seen, also ironically, 40 years after the last time they played in the Super Bowl, which was the Bears' last one. But with this game, I love the Bears on the points at plus 4.5. I'm leaning towards them on the money line because of what I saw last weekend. They have that resiliency of, we're not out of it. 21-6, you saw Bears fans in that, hey, we're not done with this. The Rams, Matt Stafford went down and had that beautiful game-winning drive. There's no reason you should have been there. I think the Rams are a team that they kind of play with their food a lot and play down the levels of their competition. Plus, I want to look this up because I know last year, uh, I don't know what it is, but I just know that when the Rams have to go outdoors, the record's a lot worse. And guess where you're going? You're going to Chicago, where it's going to be snowing. It's going to be like 16 degrees, or it's going to be like below freezing by the time kickoff comes around. There's an anthem singer that like Soldier Field's really excited about. The fact that, and also I do think though with the timings of this games, I didn't like how the NFL announced. They waited for the games to be done to announce it on Monday night. But I still think there's a world where it had the Steelers had won. Patriots Steelers would have been the 6:30 kick instead of the 3 o'clock kick. I just think because Houston put them in the. Also, we've learned our lesson with Texans. Hey, you 4:30 on Saturday, no matter if you're home or on the road. 4:30 on a Saturday. But something about this Bears team, I know the defense isn't what it is, but that offense just plays with a we don't care mentality. They play with this like attitude, and also very underrated storyline with them. They have one of the most winningest players in the last 10 years on the NFL on their offensive line in Joe Thuney.
Joe Thuney, yeah, who's been to, I forget that stat that he's
won 4 Super Bowls,
and he's been to
the playoffs every year but 2020.
Conference championship game every year but 2020. Yeah, which is ridiculous. I'm with you on the Bears having some sort of je ne sais quoi that is hard to describe with all these cardiac comebacks. When the Commanders did this last year, everyone thought it was fluky, and then they went all the way to the NFC title game by doing it.
Dog walk the Lions in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I do think the Rams, I do think we have to start raising our alert level a little bit. Maybe this team just does win the Super Bowl like everybody says they will, but for me at least, when you struggle against the NFC South as much as they have by losing outright to the Falcons and then coming damn close losing to the Panthers last week, I start to think about it a little bit because they were also tied with the Cardinals in the third quarter or something like that. Are we sure this team doesn't have flaws? I'm starting to worry that their defense is not as good as we think it is. It seems to be getting, I know they didn't have Quentin Lake, but they had Quentin Lake back last week and they got torched by Carolina. I'm starting to worry if this defense is really Super Bowl caliber. And obviously the Bears, with Caleb making all these explosive plays, is primed to exploit that, especially with the game being at home. I have no real feel on who's going to win. I do kind of like Chicago on the point. More than anything, I like the over. I just think both these teams are going to score. I'd be shocked if this isn't another shootout. I just think the Rams defense has been exposed the last couple of weeks. The Bears defense, the Packers did put up a lot of points, and they also missed a lot of field goals too on them. So they lost TJ Edwards as well after last week, and their run defense falls off a cliff when TJ Edwards doesn't play. So I think this is going to be a lot of points. I think both teams are going to score a lot. If you're going to bet the Bears, to the listeners out here, by all means, bet the Bears. I think it's fine. But what I would do is, while this game is happening, wait till halftime, because the Rams might be up by 2 touchdowns at halftime. And you may be able to get a great live line on the Bears as they come storming back, as they do every single week when they're losing in the fourth quarter and somehow come back and win. So to everyone out there, if you like the Bears in the spread, that's great. 4.5 is a good line. But live, you might even get an even better line because the Rams will probably come out to a big lead in the first quarter or in the first half. But yeah, I think both teams are going to score. I think with the Rams, like I said, my alert level is just up a little bit. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with your defense playing how it did against Atlanta and against Carolina, because you're going to play better teams, not just the Bears. What if you have to play Seattle? What if you have to play the Patriots in the Super Bowl? What if you have to play Josh Allen in the Super Bowl? I just don't think this defense is good enough to do that if it's going to play how it did against Atlanta and Carolina. So my alert level up a little bit. Defense also got torched against Seattle in the last regular season game too. So yeah, the Rams, I'm not picking them to lose yet. I mean, this game I think is a coin flip. So I guess I'm not really, I'm being a coward and I'm not making a pick either way. But I'm not saying it's a guaranteed they're going to get knocked out of the tournament, but I think it is concerning. I think it is concerning for a bit before we get there. So I think I'm going to say, coin flip game. I like the Bears on the spread, but the over. I like the over first and foremost.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same way. The je ne sais quoi, the crescendo of this all, though, comes down to a game that BigRat 310 will be at Monday night in his backyard, Hard Rock Stadium. You've got, honestly, what would be a once-in-a-lifetime victory versus that team, that scrappy team. Just, Miami runs a very pro-style system, where they kind of get to 3-2, and they're just oh, we're gonna grind you down, and then we're gonna get the first down. I just wanted to ask you, though, what story, in your opinion, is the more prolific one? Is it the Mendoza effect, or is it the Miami winning in their backyard? Because, you don't get it often where the host team for the national championship is like the host team is the one playing in it where the national championship is. I know I got my words mixed up there, but it's like,
Yeah, I think Miami winning is definitely the more prolific story because I think Mendoza's already had a lot with it's hard, like the hometown thing is cool, but he already won the Heisman. He's already going to be the first overall pick. Like that's already like a lot on him narrative wise that I think the hometown thing kind of blends into the background when consider the backdrop of everything else. Like Heisman, national champion if he wins, first overall pick. Like that's all like so much heavier than hometown. So I think it would be a bigger deal for the Canes, especially since the meme with the Canes is the U is back. And that's been a meme that we've been saying for decades. Like every time the Canes go on a winning streak, like the U is back, the U is back, the U is back. So much so that Mario got into a playful. Mario and Scott Van Pelt are friends. I think a lot of people misread the interaction the wrong way, but they got into a playful back and forth where Scott Van Pelt teased that he was going to say the U is back. And Mario's whole thing is like Mario's whole thing was like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, because Mario hates that phrase. Mario's logic is we can't ever, in today's era of college football, you can't ever go to what the U was in the 80s. It's a different era. It's not about going back. It's about going forward. That's Mario's whole crew. Yeah, so the U is back. Mario's going to resist it. But if the Canes win the national championship, the whole meme is they're back. And if they win it in their hometown, that adds to the setting of they're back, they're back, they're back. So I think that would be the bigger story. And I've been, like I'm not like you. I didn't grow up with a spoon in my mouth, football-wise. The football equivalent of that, of just going to all these Super Bowls and all these conference title games and all these opportunities. I said this on the show before. I attended the 2002 Fiesta Bowl with the Canes in Ohio State. It was the first game I ever went to. My family took my dad and my brothers. We went as a group trip. The Hurricanes lost on a BS call. I'll vividly remember it. It caused me a lot of trauma. Like it was like, I know it's stupid. I know it's just sports, but when you're 8 years old, something like that like feels like devastating. It feels like world altering. Even if sure, you get older, you have some perspective and you realize there's a lot worse trauma in life than something like that. But nonetheless, at the time, it really hurt. And it scarred me because the Canes were so bad for so long. They were so thoroughly mediocre. And even if they weren't having losing seasons, what people out there who are not Canes fans wouldn't appreciate is they were always underperforming to their talent. The Canes, just by their brand, were getting top 20, top 30 recruiting classes every single year. Even when they were bad, the recruiting classes would still be ranked like 15th, 16th. And they would never finish the season ranked in the top 25 AP poll. They would frequently finish the season with 4, 5, or 6 losses. Like they were projected to go 9-3, 10-2, and they would go 7-5. That would happen constantly. Every single year under Randy Shannon, under Al Golden, under Manny Diaz. We had a brief moment of resurgence in 2017 under Mark Richt, where the team was number 2 in the country in November after beating Notre Dame. And had they beaten Clemson in the ACC title game, they would have gone to the 14 college football playoff. That was the high point. But then they lost to Clemson. They lost their bowl game to Wisconsin, and then they went 7-5 the next year. And 7-6, actually, because they lost their bowl game to Wisconsin in the rematch again. And so, that was a hard time. Like 2019, we lost to FIU. That's a big deal. Like losing to a group of 5 team that was our hometown rival, that was played in Marlins Park, which is the original site of the original Orange Bowl.
Yep.
And Miami and FIU last played in 2006 and got into an all-out brawl. It's very famous. Look it up online if you've never seen it before. So losing to FIU was such an embarrassing disaster. And like 2020, like they were solid, but like it was the COVID year. And they also got exposed in a game against UNC where they gave up 60 points and they gave up 700 total yards of offense, 600 yards rushing, an NFL record by Sam Howell, Michael Carter, and Javonte Williams, some NFL players. And Josh Downs, I think, was in that game too. So some NFL talent in that game that exposed the Canes. Manny Diaz gets fired the next year. They bring in Mario Cristobal. The first year is rough. They lose to Middle Tennessee State at home. They get blown out by Middle Tennessee State at home. I was there at that game. It was rough. They lost 45-3 to FSU at home. 45-3 at home. And then last year, it seemed like the Canes were finally on the brink of coming back to national relevance. They have the first overall pick. They have a Heisman contender in Cam Ward, and they lose their last game of the season. And that was really heartbreaking for a lot of us because a lot of us really believed that things were finally different. The team was 10-1. All they had to do was beat Syracuse, and they would go to the ACC title game. They would go to the college.
That.
And they lost And it probably cost Cam the Heisman too. And we all were heartbroken because we had spent the whole year really believing that we were a top 10 team again. And then it ended just like how it always does. In the Pop-Tarts Bowl, you lose in the Pop-Tarts Bowl to Iowa State.
Nothing wrong with that bowl game.
Nothing wrong with that bowl game. It's just it's a fun
that one specifically.
And then this year when we lost to SMU for the second time, I was heartbroken. We were a 10-point favorite and we lost. We were a 13-point favorite against Louisville and we lost that one as well. And you really started to believe that it was just never going to happen. We really started to believe, for as good as Mario is at bringing in talent through the transfer portal, if we're just going to lose as 10-point favorites all the time, like this is not sustainable. I don't know how we're going to do this. And then something changed. Something changed after the SMU game. They just locked in. Everyone, like they always talk about it. They had this meeting where everyone looked in the mirror and everyone decided to hold each other accountable and everyone decided to take the sport seriously. And they just locked in. They won their last 4 games. They blew everybody they played out. They went at Pitt to close the season and they won 38-7. They were just dominant. And rightfully, they beat Notre Dame for the last spot because they had the tiebreaker. And that stretch that they showed that it wasn't a fluke against just ACC teams. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Ohio State. They beat Ole Miss. And now here they are. It's happening so fast. Like you probably, I was just happy to make the playoff. When we beat Texas A&M, I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, we won a playoff game. This is incredible. I was happy just to get the opportunity to play Ohio State. Like I thought we could win, but I was really excited just to have the chance because of that game that made me so sad, like in 2002.
Yeah.
And when we beat them, I started tearing up, and I couldn't even like. Sometimes in sports things happen so fast you can't even really explain why. Like obviously I'm sad. I was crying out of like euphoria, out of like, oh my God, like 2002 was so heartbreaking, and here I am like 23 years later, and the moments come full circle. And there were a lot of Canes fans who had that same story, where the last time they were playing for a national championship, they had their heart broken. And in order to get back to playing for a national championship, they had to exercise that demon. There's some poetry in that is like really like beautiful. And, we talk about a lot on this show. Sports are a vehicle for shared experience, a vehicle to have these moments with your family. And to watch that game with my dad and my brothers, the same people that we all got our hearts ripped out in 2002, the same people years later, was really, really cool. And it was emotional. Like we'd been through so much grief, so many heartbreaking losses. To see it actually not be fake, to see it actually be genuine was really, really heartwarming. So it's funny because when they beat Ole Miss, there wasn't even that much euphoria. It was like, oh, of course, like we were favored. We took care of business. Now we get the chance to play the national title game in Miami. Whereas like the previous 2 weeks, we were just happy to make the playoff. Like it's happening so fast. I have not yet appreciated like the enormity of Monday night. I will be there. To those listening, no, I did not pay $4,000 for a ticket. Absolutely not. Season ticket holders had a chance before the playoffs started to reserve playoff seats for every game. And if you're a season ticket holder, they would only charge you like $200 or $300, only if you committed before the playoffs even started. You didn't have to go, like if the Canes had lost in the first round, you wouldn't have owed any money for the last 3 games. It's just if they advance, you're committed to paying for that seat. If you commit on like December 5th or whenever it was done. So season ticket holders like that, we got tickets for really cheap. Obviously, if you try to get in now, it's like a nightmare. It's like basically non-existent. I have some classmates who got in for free. I'm not that lucky, but like they got in because there is, even in the national title game, there is still a student section for both schools. There is still reserved student seats that students can get for free if they pay like the athletic fee that they pay on their tuition, which a lot of my friends do. So yeah, like it's going to be wild. Like yes, in part, it's like exactly like you were saying earlier on the Patriots. It really rang true with me. I am happy to be here. This is objectively an incredibly successful season, no matter what. No one had us going this far, but it's almost like now that we're this close and the game's in Miami, it's like, man, like it would really hurt to lose, even though I was just happy to make the playoff in the first place. And here we are 3 weeks later, and now I'm going to be sad if they lose the title game. It's like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair how this works. Like on December 20th, I was just happy to beat A&M. And now it's like, if I lose in the title game, I'm going to be sad. This sucks. Like, I thought this was supposed to be fun. And it is going to be a celebration. I'm excited during the day. Everyone that's going to the stadium and everyone like just kind of looking around. Like we've seen some terrible, terrible Hurricanes football games in this building. And now we're going to watch them play for the national title game in the same building is really freaking cool. No other way around that. That part I'm really looking forward to. What I'm not looking forward to is when it's like a tied game in the third quarter and every single play has enormous levity to it. Every penalty feels monstrous and my heart is racing. I'm not ready for that because even though my heart was racing against Ohio State, like the national title wasn't on the line. Like this would hurt. I do think the Canes can win. I do think that Indiana like is being a little overrated because of how they beat Oregon and Alabama because they don't look like that every week. Like if you look at their game against Ohio State, if you look at their game against Iowa, when they have tough games, when they have these tough games in the trenches, they can get got a little bit. Fernando Mendoza, as great as he is, low-key takes a lot of sacks, more so than most people might realize. They're like 72nd in the country in sack percentage. And we have the best pass rush in football with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, and that's been proven true all playoffs. And so I think we could sack him. We could limit the run. The Canes' run defense has been really, really good the whole playoffs. Mark Fletcher and the run offense getting 150 yards every game has been the story, but the run defense has been nearly as good. Like aside from Kewan Lacey's 75-yard touchdown, they haven't really allowed anything on any of their other runs against Texas A&M, Ohio State, or Ole Miss. So if we could stop the run and if we could sack Mendoza, I think we can make this a low-scoring game, and I kind of like the Canes in that environment, like a 17-14, 21-17 kind of game. I kind of like the Canes a lot in that environment because I think they have better trench play than Indiana does. I understand Indiana's well-coached. I understand Indiana's trench play has been awesome in these playoffs. I'm not denying that at all. But at the end of the day, these guys are all undersized relative to the Canes line. The Canes O-line and D-line is going to have a 30-pound advantage on a lot of those guys. The critic from a lot of people online is, okay, that may be true, but that was also true for Oregon and Alabama's trench play, that they were bigger than Indiana's trenches. Yes, their trenches are not as good as ours, though. That's the difference. I do agree that Alabama obviously has 5 stars in the O-line, so does Oregon. But our line, our trench play is the best trench play in the college football playoffs. It has been the whole, like, they allowed, like no sacks against Beck, against Ohio State. They allowed, the pass rush has been unbelievable. Like, they only allowed, like, 7 pressures in that Ohio State game to a really good Ohio State pass rush. So, Indiana and Miami have had a common opponent. It was Ohio State, and who won by more? Miami did. So I'm confident. I totally understand the, kind of like the Eagles last year in the Super Bowl. I totally understand it looks like this team has just caught fire and no one can stop them, and they're just going to blow everybody out until they win the title. I get that phenom in sports. I do think it's a real thing. I think 2019 LSU had that thing as well. I think the difference, though, is 2019 LSU and last year's Eagles had more talent than the other teams they played. I do not know if Indiana has more talent than Miami. That's my argument as to why that lightning in a bottle, they've caught fire, they're unstoppable. I don't think that applies here. So I like the Canes. Love the Canes on the spread. Any of you out there that can get 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, the Canes are 3-0 against the spread in the CFP. I think they're like 6-0 against the spread their last 6. They're really, really good at keeping these games close. They could get blown out, of course. Like Beck could turn it over a bunch of times, just like Dante Moore did, and then we're screwed. That could happen. I'm going to bet against that happening because I trust my quarterback and I trust my team. So go Canes.
The other thing with Indiana too, is just the simple fact of what happens when you're hit with adversity, because it's been a while since you've been there. Like you said too, like you kind of just came out against Alabama, ran the show, and then Oregon. Like I remember, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a good game, and then like I get back, I was up for dinner, and I get back into the car and I go to the radio. I'm like, oh, what's the score? 28-7. I'm like, oh boy,
the game was over very quick.
Yeah. I also don't think that they're going to let up the explosive plays that you saw Oregon doing, where they just get downfield and just bombs away. I don't think Miami's going to do that. And I think there is something, too, to be said about them playing at home, where it is at home. It's the chance to rewrite the stories, because you have two sides of this where there's no David Goliath. You just have the side of it's the hometown team getting it done when there's been a lot of just stuff to go through. And then you have the once-in-a-lifetime Indiana Hoosier side. But we know that at the end of the day, I feel like it's more likely that Indiana, and this is not a knock on Miami, but just like, based on the state of the Big Ten right now, that Indiana could very well be back in the same position next year than Miami, because Miami seems like a team where, hey, it's built for this year, kind of like LSU was in 2019, where it's like, this is the season.
Yeah, Miami's going to lose a lot of their guys. Like Francis Mauigoa is going to be a high first-round draft pick. Ruben Bain is going to be a high first-round draft pick. Akeem Mesidor is going to be drafted. Jacoby Thomas is going to get drafted. Keontae Scott's going to get drafted. The Canes have guys. Like they have, obviously Malachi Tony's the best freshman receiver in the country.
Yes.
And so the Canes certainly have guys coming back who are going to play really well next year. But you lose a lot of your best players at impactful positions like tackle, edge rusher, and quarterback. And the Canes right now don't have a quarterback for next year. I'm nowhere near going to spend 10 minutes ranting on the Canes portal quarterback chase that our group chats are on fire about, which is hilarious that college football works. We're playing the national title game in 3 days, and we are obsessed about who their next quarterback is going to be because the portal closes tomorrow. Like, we have no choice but to talk about it, but to worry about it. The coaches better be worried about it. The coaches can't think, oh, I'll just worry about this after the national title game. No, that's not the sport. I know it's unfair, but it is what it is. So, yes. There's a lot of uncertainty going into next year, and this is a real big opportunity at home. You know, there's going to be a lot of Indiana fans there, I'm sure. Indiana has a bigger alumni base than Miami does. They traveled really well for the Peach Bowl against Oregon. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Indiana fans in that building, but home field advantage is not just about the fans in the crowd. Home field advantage is about the fact that Miami doesn't travel, about the fact that Miami's been sleeping in their own beds all week. They don't have to get on a plane. You know, there's a lot more to it. They're familiar with those locker rooms. They're familiar with the way the turf feels, with the way the lights shine. There's a lot to it beyond just like the crowds.
Will they be using their own locker room?
They will not. I thought they were because historically the Canes. So for those who don't know, there's a Dolphins locker room, the Dolphins home locker room, and the visiting locker room. Dolphins and the Canes play in the same building.
Yep.
And the Canes normally play in the visiting NFL locker room because they like it better than the Dolphins locker room. And so I thought, okay, the Canes are the road team for this game. So I thought, okay, they're the road team for this game, so they'll be in the visitor locker room of the Dolphins side. And apparently that's not how it works for the CFP. The CFP assigns home and road differently than the NFL does. So they're actually putting them in the Dolphins home locker room, which is not the locker room they normally use. So even though they're the road team, they're in that building's home locker room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so then just out of curiosity then, what locker room then would the visiting, like Miami's playing a normal regular season game?
Yeah, they would take the Dolphins. They would take the Dolphins locker room.
So the visiting NCAA team would take the Dolphins locker room.
Correct. And the Canes would take the visiting NFL locker room. And for whatever reason, for the CFP, it's assigned by the CFP, and they flipped it for whatever reason. I don't know why. Similarly, it's probably corporate related. Similarly, like the Canes have to stay at a hotel in downtown Miami Beach. And you all would think, well, that's crazy. What, they live in Miami. Like, why do they need to stay in this hotel in downtown Miami Beach? It's because the CFP reserved hotels that each team in the title game is going to play in, and there's corporate sponsors for each of those hotels. And so they need the college football playoff teams to play in those hotels. And because the Canes are the road game for this game, they're staying in the farther hotel, and Indiana's staying in the closer hotel. And yeah, the Canes have to. It's a CFP requirement. They can't just sleep in their own beds.
Do we know where the location for Indiana's hotel is then, or?
Yeah, it's in the Coconut Grove, which is a little bit closer to the stadium than where the Canes are going to be. But ultimately, it's not that big of a deal. The fact that what is relevant is Indiana's traveling for this game. The Canes are not. The Canes have been home all week. Canes had an extra day of prep as well. The Canes played on Thursday last week. Indiana played on Friday. That might mean something. Not sure. But yeah.
One more thing I wanted to touch on, because I saw it from someone named Chase Sr., who he's just on Twitter, about the 49ers. NFL players have started to reach out to their agents about the location of the 49ers practice facility, voicing real concerns about the EMFs. One agent told the Washington Post he thinks the Niners might have to move their practice facility. Another agent has wondered if why his clients have taken longer to heal while playing for the 49ers. He is an Eagles person, but it is something to watch out for, especially considering where the Super Bowl is going to be this year. Like, I would rather the Patriots, if they were to get there, practice at Stanford and not at the Niners facility.
Yep. I would agree with you on that.
That's just one thing I wanted to add before we wrap this wonderful show up. 417 in the bag. Big Rat was here for 400. And one more thing, too. The Giants play the Colts next year, so maybe we get a Danny Dimes primetime Giants.
Yeah, an in memoriam, primetime, that'd be fun. That'd be great.
Remember you. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Big Rat, all the best Monday night. Have an absolute blast at Hard Rock Stadium. Divisional round weekend's coming. The national championship's coming back around. I'll see you guys after all that. Have a great night, everybody.
See ya.